Welcome back to Real Health. Now, neck tension, poor posture, poor sleep, and reduced concentration are often the result of stress. And these conditions can in turn result in various forms of overstimulation in the sympathetic nervous system. But with proper preventative treatment, it doesn't have to get to this point. And to spell it out for us in layman's terms is cranial sacral therapist Justine Hunt. Okay, so we stressed out it leads to a whole host of things, and then you come in with cranial sacral therapy. But for people that have never heard of that before, I always ask you to just give it to us in a basic form. What is it and how will it help the body?
Okay, so basically we're stretching out the whole nervous system. So we've got a membrane system surrounding the spinal cord all the way to the tailbone and around the head and the cranium. The infoldings of that membrane will affect the venous drainage and the blood supply of the brain, and obviously then you've got all your cranial plates on top of that as well.
Yeah.
So the gist of it is that we're stretching out the dural membrane, which contracts during stress from emotional and physical stress. We tighten up, it's that tortoise pulling its head into its shell kind of thing. So the back of the neck all tightens up, then we start getting tension, headaches, reduced blood supply to the brain, poor concentration, poor productivity.
Brain fogginess.
People say their memory's not so great. Also insomnia, anxiety. The brain just isn't functioning at its optimum, which also reduces immunity. So some people tend to get then headaches, tension headaches. The unfortunate few that have the tendency will start developing migraines, which are then a much more intense version of a headache.
Yeah, because usually when someone has a headache, you ask them to drink some water because it's usually indicative of dehydration. But is it for that person that has those constant headaches, starts developing migraines like you mentioned, and just nothing else seems to work? Could that be?
Definitely,
okay.
Definitely. Or even just people, if they aren't developing migraines, that's not their tendency, but they say, I've got intermittent headaches all the time, more than 3 or 4 times a week. They're constantly feeling like brain fogginess, poor memory, poor concentration, bit of insomnia, they're not sleeping so well. All of that is showing that the nervous system's in a state of stress.
Okay, what else in our everyday life can lead to this dural membrane being sort of contracted all the time?
I think it's when people have poor posture, especially working environments, sitting at the desk, hunched over, and lack of exercise, lack of movement in the body, and also you're not facilitating deep breath. So the body starts to go into the fight or flight mechanism. It starts to activate all of that sort of sympathetic ganglia, the sympathetic ganglia in the neck and in the chest area and the diaphragm. So they're tight, they're stressed, they're not breathing properly, they're not taking deep breaths, they're not oxygenating the body, they're not oxygenating the brain. And then also the fascia constricts because they've got a poor posture. So we need to open up and stretch out the fascia, increase the blood supply and movement. Exercise, stretching, walking is fantastic.
For those that don't know, can you just quickly touch on the difference between the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system?
So the parasympathetic is what we call your rest and digest. So that promotes everything relating to digestion, opens the sphincters, increases blood supply to all the organs, promotes peristalsis, slows the heart rate, increases depth of breathing, and facilitates all of the good hormones, your happy hormones, your relaxation hormones. So that facilitates libido, etc., all of those things. Then you've got your fight or flight, which is stress, adrenaline, so that's your sympathetic, and that's all of the opposite. So it contracts around the sphincters of the digestive system, reduces blood supply to the organs, you have reduced absorption of nutrients from the gut, constipation, anxiety, and neck tension, headaches, reduces your concentration, your memory, and all of that. So if that's a chronic problem, we start to see that the immunity drops and things like migraines, headaches start happening, poor sleep, insomnia, and those kind of more chronic symptoms.
What do you recommend as a physiotherapist and craniosacral therapist for someone to wind down to ensure that they actually get some good sleep? Because if they're in that sort of tense state, and that's become a norm, they don't get into that deep sleep, they don't get any REM sleep either. Are there things that they can do as sort of like a pre-bed routine that you would recommend? Look,
exercise is fantastic because it increases your endorphins, and endorphins automatically stretch and open, increase the blood supply and start to relax the whole membrane system. So gentle exercise, even if it's just a walk and then some stretches, and you can do some upper arm movement, just gentle stuff. Definitely magnesium, nice hot bath, heat really relaxes muscle spasm as well. So those kind of things they can definitely start to do. Have a good meal, do some obviously exercise maybe before the meal. Then when you get closer to dinner time, and then magnesium, a nice hot bath, and then just some gentle stretches, and hopefully you'll have a good night's sleep.
Thank you so much. So
Pleasure.
insightful. Always good having you on the show.